Hey, what's going on, everybody? I hope you're doing well. If you're watching this video, then it means you're ready to take your business to the next level and learn how to present life insurance, specifically IULs, in a way that ethically makes people want to buy without you coming across as a pushy salesman. I put this training together because I remember when I first got started in the business and I started learning about different kinds of life insurance, I got so excited that I couldn't even sleep. And that excitement led me to want to share it with everybody that I knew. And I just thought they were just going to want to buy life insurance because, like, who doesn't need life insurance? Like, if you're a living, breathing person, you're going to die at some point. And if you don't have any life insurance, then you probably need some. You know what I'm saying? But they would all hit me with the, let me think about it. And then that's when I realized it wasn't what I was actually saying, it was how I was saying it. And then once I shifted my approach, following a simple framework, people started leaning in instead of pulling away. And that's when my business actually took off. And in this training, I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. So I hope you're ready for that. You ready to take your business to the next level? All right, let's do it. So this is our title slide, IUL Selling Secrets. Discover the same script that I've used to ethically make people want to buy life insurance without coming across as a pushy salesman. Now, one of the first things that we're going to cover is the types of selling. And there's two types. You have one-to-one selling or one-on-one selling and one-to-many selling. Now, one-on-one selling, this is what most people are used to and what most people think of when they think of traditional sales. So yeah, this is me doing a one-on-one presentation. Like, this is probably 7 years ago. And this guy was like, what in the hell is this guy talking about? And I knew what I was talking about, but I wasn't communicating it in a way where he could understand it. And then I remember the first time I spoke in front of a group. Now, for context, this is during my time at WFG. I'm maybe a couple months into the business, had closed a couple policies, and they were so excited, like, oh, Brandon, why don't you get on stage and tell everybody what you did? I'm like, I really didn't do anything. But anyway, I got up and I spoke, and I just remember sitting in the back of the room, nervous the entire 60 minutes leading up to when I was supposed to go on stage. My legs were shaking, my stomach had the butterflies because I'm like, what am I going to say? I hope I don't sound stupid. All of these thoughts just started going through my head, and I got up and I did it anyway. And I don't remember what I said, but hopefully I didn't sound too stupid. Now, that should be reassuring because speaking publicly in front of a group is the number one fear of most people. And if you're an introvert, you should find comfort in this, knowing that I am a big introvert. Matter of fact, this is me at a 90s party outside, taking in the views, getting some fresh air, sipping on I don't know, is that a pina colada? Probably, I don't drink pina coladas, but I'm sipping on something, having a good time by myself, having a good time by myself. But I just want you to know that if you are an introvert and you don't feel comfortable presenting on camera, you can still do this too. And if you're an extrovert, this is going to be super, super easy for you. All right, now moving on, I want to share some proof to let you know that, first of all, I don't like bragging, but I do think it's important to be able to provide proof of concept before teaching that concept to somebody else. So this is actually one of my W-2s from, I want to say a few years ago. I made a little over $300,000 with this particular company in a 12-month period. So this is an earnings disclaimer. First off, I want you guys to know that you're not going to make $310,614 in the next 12 months. But I am going to show you a business model that actually does that. I don't know about you, but when I first got started into the business, I just wanted to make enough money to cover my bills. My wife was pregnant at the time. We were living in San Jose, California, and the rent was going up. We were in a low income apartment. So we had to figure something out, and we had a baby on the way, and I had quit my job, was just trying to make it. So I had a target of making at least 6 figures because I thought 6 figures was the goal. Do you feel the same way? Like, is 6 figures your target? Have you ever thought to yourself, if I could just make 6 figures, my problems would be okay? That's exactly how I felt. And I think in the beginning, I set my targets really, really high. And so I overshot it. But then when I broke it down, I figured out that $100,000 a year is only $1,923 per week. And then I broke it down to figure out how much or how many policies that I need to write per week at what amount in order to be able to make that type of money. And so I found out that one policy per week at $1,923 per policy closed, that would get me the $100,000. Currently, I write between 4 to 6 policies per month, and each one of these policies pays me anywhere from $1,500 all the way up to $8,000 in first year commissions. And so I'm sharing this with you because if I can do it, you can do it. It only takes one policy per week to be able to earn the type of income that you want to make. Now, why is what I'm going to share with you different? Well, this is different because this is not about selling products. It's about solving people's problems. If you don't care about the people that you're helping, then this ain't gonna work for you. It's not about recruiting a team to build your business. It's actually about becoming a personal authority and building trust and credibility so that that team wants to work with you. Your clients want to work with you, not the other way around where you want to recruit a team or you want to get clients. You want people coming to you. And you do that through building authority and trust. And this system is going to teach you how to build authority and trust. Next, it's not about finding customers. It's about attracting your dream customer, because you don't want to work with everybody. Everybody don't want to work with you. You see how that works? So you want to work with people who are going to be a great fit for what you actually have to offer. Hopefully you're getting this. Now, my goal for this training is I'm going to show you my IUL Selling Secrets framework, which educates, entertains, and ethically makes clients want to buy life insurance from you without being sold to. All right. So I hope that makes sense. We are going to go ahead and hop into my first secret, which is the IUL Influencer Framework. And this is my framework for selling index universal life insurance. So for me to teach you how to sell IUL online, there's two frameworks that I'm going to have to teach you in order for you to understand how it works. So the first framework is this framework right here, where we're going to teach you my framework for selling index universal life insurance. And then the second framework is going to be actually how I present it through a group presentation, a live or a webinar. And when you understand how both of these frameworks work hand in hand, then it makes this whole thing possible. Now, the first thing that you got to understand is that most agents, they try to sell the product. They never sell the result. And what your clients are buying is the result. Does that make sense? There is a step-by-step process that gets somebody to the result that they want. And that result is defined as success. For example, let's say you go to a dentist and you have a cavity. What the dentist is applying to you is their framework that they learned in dental school about how to get rid of your cavity. That's the framework for success. You're in pain. The success you want is to get out of pain. Therefore, you go to a dentist and they apply the framework that they learned in dental school to fix your tooth and get rid of your pain. So what are we selling here when we're selling life insurance? What pain are our clients in? Are they worried about running out of money? Are they worried about accessing their retirement savings without penalties and taxes? Are they scared what would happen if they needed cash for emergencies, for investments or other opportunities? What about being hesitant to lock away money in traditional retirement accounts? Are they looking for ways to lower their tax bill? Are they trapped in debt and struggling to build wealth? You see where this is going? So what is the result that your client wants? I could tell you one that they might want. They want a safe, tax-free way to grow and access their money, protect their wealth, and create financial freedom without worrying about losing their money or losing control over their money. Does that make sense? Are you getting it? Now, if you give somebody your framework, it doesn't mean anything. You have to give it to them in a way that increases the perceived value of it so that they actually use it. What is perceived value? Let me give you an example. Let's say you got some Dasani water and then you got that Fiji water. Okay. Now, what is water made of? H2O. Identical, right? But the only thing different between these two bottles of water is one of them has a Dasani bottle with a Dasani label. The other one has a Fiji bottle with a Fiji label. Both are H2O, but Fiji water costs a lot more than Dasani water. So why does Fiji cost more than Dasani? Well, it's not just water, it's artesian water. You get what I'm saying? So you have to be creative in how you package your framework. One of my frameworks is how to create a wealth building system that avoids taxes and eliminates debt without having to work harder, save more, or worrying about losing your money, right? This is your 3 steps to becoming your own bank, your 5 steps to financial freedom. This is also what makes it easier for you to be able to teach without having notes. So if somebody asks you what you do, then you can essentially on the spot teach without having to have notes because you already have a framework that you patented and you've mastered. Now, I have to tell you my number one mistake so that you don't make this mistake, because this mistake cost me probably a couple years in my career. And not to admit, I don't even know how much money I could have made if I had done this sooner. But I remember a few years ago, I made the decision to stop selling term and final expense and go all in on IULs. As I'm learning about IULs, I found out they were a perfect fit for business owners. And immediately I thought of my best friend, Sean. I call him Mac Dollars because that's my boy. Because he is actually a successful business owner, has a couple of alarm companies, authorized dealer for ADT, and has his own private company as well. He's one of my oldest friends. He's the godfather to my kids, and I was confident that he was going to buy a policy from me. And so I presented it to him. I told him about the cap rates, the floor rates, the participation rates. I showed him how much money he was going to have in retirement, and he was super interested. And I even started an application for him. And this was going to be my first big case, and I really needed the money at this time. And then a few weeks later, or a couple weeks later, we were on my patio, and Mac tells me about this guy he had met down in the community center. And he was like, "Hey, Brandon, I met this guy down at the community center, and he was telling me about this account where I could put my money in it when the stock market goes up, my money goes up. And if the stock market crashes, I won't lose a dime." I said, "Mac, that's literally what I've been telling you about for the last few weeks." And he's like, "For real?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then he said, "Oh, my bad, bro. Well, he sent me over some numbers and I put in an application with him." And I'm like, "Wait, what? Bro, you put in an application with him? We already put in an application for you." I said, "Hold up, bro. Let me take a look at what he put together for you before you make any decisions. Because that's my boy. I got to make sure he good, taken care of." So I look at his illustration and I look at my illustration. My numbers were better and my product was better. But after a few weeks of back and forth, Mac still chose the other agent, and I was so mad because I was his friend and I had the better product and I showed him the better numbers. And then I asked him, "Okay, well, why did you go with the other guy, man?" And he's like, "Brandon, it's nothing against you, but the other dude just made it make more sense." And I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, you're not really telling me that right now because I'm giving you everything that I got. And so that's when Mac told me I should go talk to the other agent because he might be able to help me. I'm going to be honest. I did not want to call, but the curiosity got the best of me. So I call him up, and this is how guy worked. His name was Brandon too. And when we met, I started sizing him up. I found out he had been licensed for like less than a year at that point. I had been licensed for almost 2 years at this point. And I found out that I understood IUL so much better than he did. I understood him like inside and out. And even though he was less experienced than I did, he closed my client. Not just my client, one of my best friends that I had known for like 15 years. But then this guy asked me a question that changed everything. He said, "Brandon, do you have an IUL yourself?" And guess what I did? I froze. I didn't. I was trying to sell my best friend an IUL when I didn't even own one myself. And I lost my friend's business for two reasons. Number one, I thought knowing all the technical details was enough, but I didn't believe in what I was selling, because if I did believe in what I was selling, then I would have one for myself, because all of these benefits and features that I'm telling my friend about, why wouldn't I want to have them? Does that make sense? And number two, and this is the most important reason, because I didn't have one, I wasn't able to explain the value of the framework of the IUL I was trying to get my friend to buy. So I basically had to sell one to myself. And by selling one to myself, I developed this framework. Too many times I see agents, and y'all be reaching out to me, asking me all these questions about IULs, trying to sell them to your clients, and you don't even have one yourself. And this is just a little bit of tough love. To be honest, I wish somebody would have told me this from day one, because I just would have went on ahead, got one, but I didn't. And too many times I see agents make that same mistake, who they know the product inside and out, but they lose their audience because they never increase the perceived value of it by telling them the story about how they learned about an IUL or got one for themselves. They get caught up in the numbers and the features, and then they get mad at the people who don't buy the IUL from them instead of looking at the person in the mirror. All right, so time out, guys. Time out. Do you guys just see what I did there? I was about to teach you my framework for selling IULs, but instead of just teaching it to you, what did I do? I just did step one of the framework. Step one of the framework is you have to tell a story about how you learned or earned it, meaning how did you learn about an IUL through knowledge, resources, or how did you earn it, meaning what was your process like when you bought it? Now that you have it, how has it worked for you, right? So I just told you a story about how I learned or earned this framework. This is like Inception. If you ever seen that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, Inception, where it's a dream inside of a dream. So again, step one, you have to tell the story about how you learned it or earned it. And so I just told you a story about how I learned and earned this framework. Because if I would have just said, "Hey, let me just show you my IUL influencer framework," you probably wouldn't have cared as much. But because I told you that story, your ears perked up, and now you're going to be more receptive to everything else that I have to say. And I'm going to show you how you do it here. A way that I do it in my presentations is I talk about my early struggles with debt and quitting my job, and how I met a client who had an IUL and I didn't know what he was talking about, and how I went and I started researching books of like The Power of Zero. And that's my story. That's how I learned to earn the framework. I even shared the story that I just told you about my best friend. So imagine a client hearing that before I even say anything about an IUL. You see what I'm saying? So some things that'll help you come up with your story is, number one, ask yourself what financial problem did you or your client face? What event made you realize that an IUL was the solution? How did you discover, or how did the discovery change the way you looked at generational wealth and building wealth? What about, when did you first realize the power of an IUL? Have you ever had any financial hardships, or somebody you know have financial hardships that they faced before finding a solution, or wish they had this solution before they faced those challenges? How did an IUL create peace of mind or opportunity in your life or your clients' lives? You got to ask yourself those questions and be able to communicate that before you even talk about anything or show any numbers. Hopefully you guys are getting it. Because without the story, nobody is going to care about the strategy. Nobody's going to care about the strategy behind it. Okay. So again, that was step one of my framework for selling index universal life insurance, where you have to tell a story about how you learned it or earned it. Now, step two, this is where you want to teach the strategy. So the strategy is the high level view, the thing that you would doodle out on a whiteboard. And so your strategy, remember, this is not going to be the technical details or the tactics. The strategy is kind of like, so I'm a football player. I play football. So a strategy would be like a coach saying, the game plan for this week, guys, is we're going to run the ball every single time we get it. And we're just going to run the ball the same play to the right. Imagine being in a game and the coach keeps calling the same play over and over and over and to the right, and you're running the same play over and over. It's like, man, what is going on? But if you don't have the strategy behind it, meaning you don't know why the strategy is in place, meaning you don't know why you're running the same play over and over and over to the right, then you're not going to be receptive to the tactics. Okay? Because without the strategy, nobody is going to care about the tactics, which is the step-by-step. Okay. Now, once you've gone over the strategy and they care about it, then you can walk them through the tactics. And this is important because something happens in this step right here that'll happen inside of your actual presentation. But for right now, I just need you to understand that this is where you would actually teach them exactly how to do the thing that you're going to do. In this case, this is where you would present an illustration and walk through that line by line, explaining how everything works, explaining how the premium works, explaining how the money grows, explaining how the money gets taxed, explaining how you can use it as tax-free income, right? Because there is a difference between the what and the how. The strategy is what we're going to do, meaning we're going to avoid taxes, eliminate debt, and build tax-free wealth. And the strategy is how we're going to do it. This is the step-by-step. This is the IUL that we're doing, the customized financial plan, helping them get approved, servicing it, all that stuff, okay? And then after you walk them through the tactics, then you want to go ahead and share a case study showing proof that your strategy not just works, but it works for other people and even for yourself. And so you want to share that testimonial, that social proof. Because without the case study, guess what? They're not going to believe you. Well, they might believe you, but they might not believe that they can have success with the strategy that you're recommending. Now, if you follow that 4-step framework, then it automatically handles step 5, which is the objections and the close. Because what I found out being in the insurance industry for almost 10 years now is that there's 3 main objections when it comes to index universal life insurance. The first objection is life insurance is only for death benefits, not for building wealth. The second objection is IULs are too complicated for somebody like them to understand. The third objection is, oh, I'll just keep my 401k because it's safer than an IUL. These are the beliefs that people have around IUL. But if you can tell those stories the way I just showed you, you handle all of these objections, and then that is how you give people the transformation that they're looking for. And so that was my framework for selling index universal life insurance. And now I want to go ahead and give you my $1 million IUL presentation. All right, let me get some water real quick here. Now, inside the $1 million IUL presentation, there are 4 stories you have to tell to educate, entertain, and get people to ethically want to buy life insurance from you. The total presentation is about 60 minutes in general to go through everything, but you can shorten it down based on like how much time you have. If you only have 20 minutes, you can do it in 20. If you have 30, you can do it in 30. So all you're gonna do is you're just gonna take these sections and you're just gonna compress the time. So instead of going through the 4 stories in 60 minutes, you'll go through the 4 stories in 30 or in 10. However much time you have, you're just gonna condense the time down. But your first story is your original story, like your beginning story. This is where you're gonna tell the story about how you discovered IUL and how it transformed or changed your life. Now, this is something that I see a lot of MLM companies out there do wrong. And I can say this because I was in an MLM, I was in WFG for about a year. And I've actually worked with other agents in PHP and GFI, and I've seen the presentations that they're given and the scripts they're given for their presentations. And it's no different than what I was doing back at WFG. And what I can tell you is that the presentations, they work, but they could be a lot better, is what I'm saying, okay? What I found is that those presentations try to get the client to believe too many things at once. When any presentation or any sales presentation for that matter, you never want to try to convince the client of a bunch of different things. You don't want to convince them of getting life insurance and getting out of debt, but then also becoming an agent so they can make money at the same time. It's just giving people too many things to think about. You only want to convince them of one thing and one thing only. If you are selling life insurance, then you need to convince them that life insurance is the best asset class for building wealth and is not just for death benefit. If you're building a team and recruiting an agency, then you need to convince them of why your opportunity is the best opportunity in the world and it's not even close to anything else. You don't need to do both in the same presentation. And I'll tell you another secret. If you do this presentation right and you actually get a client, a percentage of those clients are going to ask you, they're going to say, hey, you know, how long have you been doing this? How much money do you make doing this? Can I do this too? That will happen, but it'll happen naturally. Does that make sense? So again, the only thing that you want to convince them of is that life insurance is for building wealth, not just for death benefits. So when you're thinking about your story, that is the main thing that you want to have in mind. Now, I want to walk you through like how you do this, because how you do this is through the story. So you remember step 1 of the framework where I mentioned telling the story about how you learned it or earned it. This is key because the Belief Bridge story is basically a framework for how you tell stories. So think about when you first got started in the business, a little bit before you actually got started back in the business. I want you to think back to when you had the belief that life insurance is only for death benefits. It is not for building wealth. Because I'm 100% certain that before you became an insurance agent, you had that belief that life insurance was only for death benefit, not for building wealth. Maybe you heard about it at some point, but did you really believe it? You see what I'm saying? But what happened? Somebody came along and they told you about index universal life insurance. They told you about cash value life insurance, and you had this aha moment. And when you had that aha moment, what did you do next? You developed this new belief, because your belief before was life insurance was only for death benefit. It's not for building wealth. But then somebody interrupted your pattern by giving you this aha moment, and you created this new belief that now life insurance is for building wealth. It's not just for death benefit, because you saw how IULs and cash value policies could help people grow and protect their money, and they could use it tax-free and access it without penalties and taxes, and even use it to become like their own private bank. And so after you developed this new belief, you did what any logical person would do. What did you do? You went all in. You started reading every book you could get your hands on. You started watching every YouTube video that popped up on your YouTube feed. You started following people on social media talking about infinite banking, private banking, IUL. You started doing all that stuff. You started studying policy design all the way down to dollar cost averaging, participation rates, loan spreads, MEC limits. And you got obsessed with indexing strategies. You got obsessed with volatility control indexes. You probably even ran some illustrations for yourself, tweaking the numbers over and over to see if to find out the perfect way to structure a policy. You probably joined some webinars, some mentorship programs, or even got your license and became an insurance agent. See what happened? And now, whenever someone asks you, hey, what do? You can't wait to share your knowledge. So you start talking and talking and talking. And you explain how IULs work. You talk about the participation rates, the loan rates, the fixed crediting, the mechanics of compounding interest, and how section 7702 and 101A and 72E of the IRS tax code allows for tax-free growth, tax-free transfer, and tax-free access to your money. You tell them about the cap rates. You talk about the S&P 500 historical returns of 10, 11, 12% going back to 1929. And what happens? They just start nodding like, yeah, okay, that sounds interesting. But can you feel it? You lost them. Why? Because you made the same mistake that kills more sales than anything else. It's called technobabble. See, when you first got started, you were too simple. Just telling people, hey, you need life insurance in case you die. And then that didn't work because people don't want to think about dying. But then you swung to the other extreme. You got to the extreme where you overwhelmed people with all the details and they didn't see the value in what you were saying because they couldn't even understand what you were saying because you weren't speaking their language. So it's like trying to sell someone a car by explaining the torque to weight ratio. I don't even know what the torque to weight ratio is, or even if that's a real thing, but it sounds like it might be a real thing. Instead of just saying, hey, this car is fast, it's fun to drive, and it gets great gas mileage. So what's the fix? How do you prevent this thing right here? Technobabble is what it's called. There's this book, I forgot who it's by, but it's called, the title is If Your Product's So Great, Then Why Nobody Is Buying It. And what the book is about is talking about how people who have a lot of passion for what they do, and they deep dive into the details to logically convince themselves so they can become an expert. Whenever somebody asks them what they do, they hit them with this stuff called technobabble, and then people they lose sales because of it. So instead, what you have to do is you have to go back and meet people where they are. You have to go all the way back to why you had the epiphany in the first place, when you were back over here. So remember when that person, whoever it was, first made you realize that life insurance is about wealth building. What did you care about? You didn't care about indexing strategies. You didn't care about the technical details, did you? You cared about, can this help me save money on taxes? Can I use this while I'm still alive? Will this help me build generational wealth? Can this help me become my own bank? You see, your job is not to explain how it all works. Your job is simply to tell a story that helps them see why it matters to them. And then once you do that, they'll ask for more details. They're going to go on the same journey you went on. Once you give them this moment right here, the aha, and they create this new belief, they're going to follow the same logical path that you follow, and they'll work out all the details on their own. And guess who they're going to come back to help them get the policy? That's how you build authority and trust, by being able to connect through the story. That's the difference between selling and convincing. See, most people feel like a salesman because they're trying to convince somebody. Convincing is trying to get somebody to do something for your reasons, whereas selling is trying to convince somebody for their own reasons, meaning they already have reasons of their own why they want to do something, and they just need help working through the thoughts. And the top producers aren't the ones who know the most about IULs. I'm sure there's thousands of insurance agents and financial advisors who know more about IULs than I could ever dream of, but they aren't the top producers, because the top producers aren't the ones who know the most about IULs. They're the ones who can make other people believe in the power of IULs without making it complicated. So when you tell your story, that origin story that I just shared with you, because your origin story is this entire story. So you want to take your clients on that journey. And I actually have a framework that I could send over to you that'll help you piece together your story. And this will serve as your intro. Okay. Now, if you tell your origin story correctly, then that big domino is going to fall. There's going to be about 10 to 20% of people who just hear the story alone who are going to want to become your client. Now, for everybody else, people like me, and most likely people like you, that domino is not going to fall, because there's going to be some limiting beliefs that are holding that domino up. There's 3 limiting beliefs, which are those objections that I told you earlier in the presentation, that are up here holding this big domino up. And these core false beliefs around, number 1 is the vehicle, number 2 are the internal beliefs, and then number 3 are the external beliefs. So the first false belief that we have to break is that life insurance is only for death benefit, not for building wealth. Now, let's say we can prove to them otherwise, then the next false belief they're going to have is, okay, well, I believe that life insurance is for building wealth, but I don't know anything about money. I'm not financially literate. I'm not smart. This is too complicated for somebody like me to understand. I definitely had those beliefs when I got started, right? And so we got to break that belief by making it easy for them to do it. And then lastly, we're going to need to go ahead and break the third false belief, which is, hey, all right, I believe in the vehicle. I believe it'll work for me, but I can't do it because of that, because Dave Ramsey said it was scam. I can't do it because Primerica said buy term and invest the difference is better. I can't do it because my dad said I can't. I can't do it because my wife doesn't believe in insurance, or I can't do it because my husband doesn't believe in insurance, or I can't do it because I don't have any money. These are all just false beliefs. Or I can't do it because my 401k is better. Does that make sense? We're going to use the rest of our presentation to break all of these limiting beliefs. So then we move on to story number 2, which is the story about the vehicle. And this is story number 2, which will take you through the next 15 minutes of your presentation, which is 30 minutes into the presentation at this point. All right. So the first thing we do is we introduce the framework. So the framework here is how to create a wealth building system that avoids taxes, eliminates debt, and leaves a legacy without losing your money. Once we introduce the framework, what do? We tell a story about how we learned it or earned it. We give our strategy, our step 1, our step 2, our step 3, our step 4. That's the what we're doing. Okay. So when you're presenting live and you're looking at attracting clients and you want to get people to book a call, then you're going to skip step number 3, where you teach the tactics. You're going to skip the tactics, because remember, the tactics is the how. So again, to recap, if our framework is how to create a wealth building system that avoids taxes, eliminates debt, and leaves a legacy without losing your money, then, and we tell the story about how we learned to earn that framework, then we go into the strategy. So step 1, we do this. Step 2, we do that. Step 3, we do this. Step 4, we do that. We skip the tactics because the tactics is what they're buying. It's the IUL. This is why they need to get on a call with you. So we have to skip this in the actual presentation, because this was where you get down into the mechanics and the technicalities of everything. And that's something that is better for a one-on-one call, because it needs to be specific to the client. So you'll skip it and then you'll go directly to the case study. All right. And so I'm going to give you a breakdown of what this looks like when I present. So step 1, I introduce the framework, which is the flip system. Step 2, I tell the story about how I learned to earn the framework to do this. And then I break it down. Step 1, I activate the flip system. Step 2, you watch your money grow safely. Step 3, we borrow at 5% or less. Step 4, we earn more than we pay. And then I share a case study or a testimonial of somebody who actually has used the system and seen success with it. If you don't have somebody who has used it or seen success with it, then you'll just skip that step. Or maybe just reach out to, if you're with an agency or something like that, just reach out to your upline, see if they have any case studies that you can borrow. Okay. All right. So that was step 1. Then we move into the second one, which is the internal false belief, which is IULs are too complicated to understand. Borrowing against an IUL is just creating more debt and they don't know how to manage it, or they're not disciplined or smart enough to use life insurance to build wealth. They can't use this without having to sacrifice their lifestyle. So all of these little things that they're telling themselves, we want to go ahead and break those up. And this will carry us through the next 15 minutes of our presentation, which is now 45 minutes in. So what is the framework for breaking those false beliefs? Well, we want to make it as easy as possible. So we introduce the framework. Secret number 2, how to create wealth and eliminate debt on cruise control, even if you're not good with money or have never invested money before. So notice how a lot of these frameworks are your false beliefs. And in order for you to be able to help your client break through that false belief, it's a framework that you had to develop because you had to actually go through it to do it. But if you haven't, then you just borrow somebody else's framework. All right, so here is the framework that you can use to help break that limiting belief. So step 1, you introduce the framework. Again, is what we talked about. Step 2, you tell a story about how you learned it or earned it. So here I'm telling a story about the richest man in Babylon, where I'm sharing the story of Arkad, the richest man in Babylon, where he mentioned a part of all you earn is yours to keep, because this isn't going to work for anybody who doesn't save any money. And so I tell this story because in order for anybody to be wealthy, they have to save. So we have to create that new belief. Okay. Now, step 3 is the what. Remember, not the how, just the what. So what are we going to do in order for this to work? Well, step 1, you're going to choose how much you want to save. Step 2, you're going to automate the payments. Step 3, you're going to automate your loans. And then step 4, you're going to adjust and review annually with your agent. You guys catch that subliminal right there? They're going to have to adjust and review annually with their agent. This automatically inserts you into the presentation because they need an agent in order to be able to get this done. Or they can become an agent, meaning they'll still need you. You see that? That's how we do it. Okay. All right. Now moving on to the last step, we add another testimonial or case study. So that's how we break the internal false belief. All right. Now we're moving into, so now we just broke the false belief that IULs are too complicated to understand. And now they believe that they can do it. They believe that they're not creating more debt. They believe that they can manage it. They believe that even if they're not disciplined, an agent can help them do it. We've helped them. Now we move into the third false belief. We got to break this one, which is what? I can't do this because I don't have any money. Well, we can't really help them with that one because they wouldn't be a good fit for this, suitable for this anyway. Or my 401k is better. It's safer. Okay, so we want to go ahead and break that belief. And that's what carries us through so this is our fourth story. This is the last 15 minutes of the presentation, which will take you through the full 60 minutes. Okay. And so we go ahead and introduce our framework, which is how to build tax-free wealth without locking away your money, even if you've only trusted 401ks before. And then as we go through our framework here, step 1, we introduce the framework. Step 2, I tell a story about how I thought I got scammed with my 401k, but I found out that it wasn't a scam. And this is the story about when I quit my job and tried to pull the money out of my 401k. And I got hit with all the penalties and taxes because I didn't have any money saved. So I tell that story because that's the story about how I learned to earn the framework. And then I introduce the story on what they need to do in order to build tax-free wealth without locking their money away, even if they've only trusted a 401k, which is number 1, you build a solid foundation. Number 2, you establish savings. Number 3, you eliminate debt. Number 4, you invest strategically. And guess which financial vehicle can do steps 1 through 4 in one product? The IUL, cash value life insurance, right? And then we insert another case study to tie that all in. So that is my framework, you guys, and that takes you inside the $1 Million IUL presentation and the 4 stories that you need to be able to tell to entertain, educate, and ethically get people to want to buy life insurance from you. Now, after you tell those 4 stories, the big domino should fall, but it'll only fall if your core stories beat their stories. So if your stories beat their stories, then the big domino falls, and then they have to get an IUL. They have to at this point, and they'll want to get it from you. They'll want to work with you. Okay. And this is how we transition into the close. This is where you're able to take the group of people that you're presenting to, whether it's face-to-face or if you're doing it online through a live or a webinar. This is how you get people to actually take action and book a call. Okay. You basically have to ask for permission to make an offer so good that people feel stupid saying no. Right? See, I see so many times insurance agents and financial advisors, they have this great presentation. Sometimes it is filled with a little bit too much technical information and details, but they have this great presentation. And then at the end of it, they ask, well, if you would like more information, you can text or email us at, and then they put in their link, right? Instead of doing that, make an offer. You have to make the offer so good they feel stupid saying no to it. Because if they want more information, what is more information? What is that? Why would I want more information? Why would they want more information? If they did want more information, then what are you going to give them? What is that more information? So why don't you go ahead and tell them what that more information is? You get what I'm saying? And you do that by creating a package, and you want to put a price tag on every single thing that you're going to give them, even if you're not going to charge them anything. And you can charge them if you wanted to. But even if you're not going to charge them, you want to put a price tag on it. So this is an example of a package that I actually offer at the end of my lives and my presentation. So Essentially, you want to give this thing a name, not just, so this is a placeholder, just so you guys know, create a package. So you give the package a name, right? Because names have meaning. It makes it special. Okay. There's a reason why I used the Dasani water and the Fiji water example earlier. There's a reason why it just doesn't say water on the bottle. It has a name, right? It gives it meaning. Okay. So I want you to think about this, right? So instead of saying, if you want more information, click the link in my bio, or go to this link and schedule a call, or send me a text and I'll schedule a follow-up meeting with you. Just be like super clear on how you can help them. And here's an example of something that you can do. So what I do is I have an actual training program, which is basically my life's work and all the resources and knowledge that I've accumulated over the years. And I put that on a digital platform that they can log in and like really get into the fine details of IUL specific trainings if they want to take it that far. So I give them that because I want them to be properly educated on the features of the policy. I want them to understand the costs, how the loans work, how the money is credited, when the money is credited, what to expect, all those things. I also give them and I put a price tag of $1,000 on it, one-on-one consultations, right? And I put, it's plural because you know as well as I do, it's going to take more than one consultation, but they might not know that. They might not know that. So you want to say that and put a price tag on it. So what does that financial consultation include? Does it include a financial review? I'm pretty sure that yours would include a financial review, right? I brand my IUL package the flip system to make it special, to make it stand out. So that way I'm not selling IULs like everybody else is. I have something special, proprietary, and unique that is separate from whatever. And this is what, I don't know if you ever heard of red ocean, blue ocean before. I'm not going to go into it there, but this is how you basically stand out in a crowded market. You have to separate yourself from everyone else. Okay. So they get that. You get help for applying for the IUL because this is a long process. This is something that they cannot do on their own. They're going to have to go through an agent. Actually, there are some places where you can get an IUL without using an agent, but the IUL is going to be trash. Like it ain't even going to be designed right. It's just going to be a basic IUL, and it ain't going to do none of the things that what we mentioned in this presentation. It ain't going to be able to do none of that stuff. So we want to help them apply to make sure it's customized and tailored for their goals, making sure they get the best company with the best rate, the best product, the best everything. And then lastly, a policy onboarding, right? An onboarding to help them be able to manage their policy remotely, or not remotely, but online through their mobile app or directly on their dashboard. And we put a price tag on it. And we show the total value because we need them to know that what we do is valuable. And if you don't put a price tag on it, it will not be perceived as valuable. That's just how it is. If you said free, it just, trust me, I fought this and I fought it for a long time, but my coach is like, look, trust me, even if it is free, you have to put a value or a price tag on it because people only value what they pay for. Definitely what they pay for if they're paying for it. But sometimes if you give stuff away for free that ain't even valuable, why should they even take it? If something was worth $10,000 and you got it for free, you would take that. But if something ain't worth $0 and it's free, you wouldn't take it. You get what I'm saying? All right. So that's why you stack on the value like this. And just to be clear, I want you to think about how much money the insurance company pays you when you bring business to them. Sometimes they pay $1,000 per policy. Sometimes it's $2,000 a policy. Sometimes it's $10,000 for a policy. Sometimes it's $30,000 for a policy. Sometimes it's $4,000 for a policy. So the insurance company has a dollar value on the business that you bring to them. And so you need to communicate that value to your client so that they are clear about what they're going to get and they're clear about the type of value that they're going to get. Okay. And that's ultimately when you go ahead and you create your offer, and that's how you get people to want to work with you. And so after you go through this thing, you'll say something like, all right, well, obviously I'm not going to charge you $4,000, but if I was going to charge you $4,000, would it be worth it if all this did was help you eliminate taxes, avoid taxes, eliminate debt, and leave a legacy without worrying about risking your money? Would it be worth it? Obviously, yeah. All right. So then you go ahead and you create an offer. Say, so here's what we're going to do. You're going to go to this website and you're going to apply to work with us. And they're going to fill out a questionnaire. And once they fill out that questionnaire, based on their responses, they either are qualified to work with you or they're not qualified to work with you. If they're qualified to work with you, then they'll be routed to book a call automatically. If they're not, then they'll get a message saying, all right, thank you. It doesn't look like you qualify at this time. And then you can give like a nice thank you message or some resources or tell them instructions on what they could do to qualify in the future. Okay. All right. So I went kind of long. I didn't mean to go this long, but I had a lot to cover and I wanted to provide as much value as I could in this training. If you have any questions, if there's something else that you would like to see, I want you to go ahead and just drop your questions in the comments. I'm actually going to go ahead and also put a link to some free resources down in the comments, some things that'll help you go out and create at least build out your story. Also the common objections that I've always gotten in regard to index universal life insurance. You could use it for whole life insurance as well. But ultimately what that's going to do is help you be able to create your own custom presentation. And this presentation is going to serve as the foundation for every single thing that you do in your business. There is nothing more important than working on this, especially if only if you want to be a top producer. If you don't want to be a top producer, then you can continue buying leads and you can continue grinding and not build your brand and get good at this. But if you want to be a top producer and have the type of impact that you got into this business for, then you're going to want to create your own custom presentation. I'm gonna go ahead and drop those tools down in the comments so that way you can go ahead and get access to them and then be on your way. All right. Well, and don't forget, go ahead, subscribe to the channel because I'm going to be sharing more content like this to help you grow your business. All right. Y'all take care. It's been good. I'll see you soon.